I know you want to eat this, and today I'm going to show you how to make this. I am Chef Linda from Catskill Animal Sanctuary, and today we are making, look at this amazing, beautiful quiche. We're making a quiche, and we're not using eggs, and it is fantastic, and it's for every kind of eater. Fantastic. We're going to cut that one later. But today we're making
say hi to Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie. We're making a quiche with no eggs, and today is the greatest day to be showing you this recipe because at Catskill Animal Sanctuary, located upstate New York, we are today welcoming 14 egg-laying hens. They are called spent hens, and they are going to come to Catskill Animal Sanctuary for love and medical care.
Yay!
And healing. And so what better day to be making this egg-free recipe for everybody, because it is a great day for these 14 hens and not for the other ones, the millions and millions of hens out there who are still laying eggs in this world because we eat eggs, right? So,
Tom.
Hey Tom, how are you? So we're going to get going. We're going to
Hi
cook.
Tina.
Hi Tina. We're going to cook. We're going to talk. So I'm going to start, right? We're going to do this recipe in two parts. We're going to make some vegetables, saute some delicious things up, and then we're going to make a custard. But one of the first things I have to do is I'm going to take this crust. You can make your own crust if you like, but today I didn't make one. I bought one. Plenty of vegan options. And I'm going to take a fork and then prick it a little bit. And I'm going to put it in the oven just to give it a little bit of a bake. I like to bake my crust first before I put my quiche in. I don't know, it feels like it's a little bit more done. So this only goes in for about 10 minutes.
Mary and Christina.
Hi, Mary
and Cecilia. Celia, sorry.
Hello. So, while that's going in there, we're going to saute up our vegetables. And to do that, I'm going to put a little bit of oil in our pan. If you're not using oil, feel free to do this with water. That works too. And I'm going to start with some beautiful shallots. Shallots, you can use onions. Shallots are a little bit milder. I think they're a little bit sweeter. Use an onion if you want. You could even use scallions. Look at that. These already smell wonderful. So the idea is we want to create a lot of delicious flavor to flavor the custard, right? That's what we do with the quiche. And I'm going to add mushrooms. So now, in this recipe, I'm using mushrooms. I'm also going to use a vegan sausage. You don't need to use a vegan sausage. I don't use a lot of processed foods, but I wanted to show you that you can, use sausage to add flavor for those folks in your house who maybe want to have a sausage. Oops, get back in there. So Furky is a pretty reliable brand. I think the foods that they make consistently taste good. They have good texture. So we're going to use that. So while these cook down, but I also use mushrooms. So if you don't want to use sausage, just add more mushrooms. So we've got shallots, we've got mushrooms. I'm going to add a little bit of garlic. Garlic kind of rounds out our flavors. And basically, a quiche is a wonderful vehicle for you to use up things in your refrigerator. Maybe you have some cooked broccoli. Maybe you have some red peppers that are in the fridge. Maybe you have some vegan cheese in the fridge that you want to, just a little bit left you want to get rid of. And maybe you have some potatoes. I boiled potatoes. What was I making? I was making something. And
Potato salad.
Potato salad I was making. And I just saved some potatoes for something. I didn't know what. And then I said, oh yeah, we're making quiche. And that's what you can add to your quiche. We're going to have some delicious ingredients. Now, where is my salt?
Karen, MD.
Hi, Karen.
Carol.
Hi, Carol. So, we're going to add a little bit of salt. Salt helps the moisture from your vegetables kind of come out. And we want the mushrooms to kind of release their moisture. We want the onions to release their moisture. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. I'm going to let that cook a minute. While that's cooking, I'm going to use so Furky. I'm going to use 2 sausages. If you're using breakfast sausage, which you can also do, I think Field Roast makes a really nice little breakfast sausage. I would just use probably like 6 of them to make the quantity. Again, use mushrooms if you don't want sausage. So what I like to do is you can crumble them.
Rudy and Roger.
Hi, Rudy and Roger. You can crumble them if you like. I cut them in half, and then we cut them in half again, right? Then we cut them in half again. This is called a quarter moon cut. That would be a half moon, right? Because look at that. Let's get that guy out of here. That's a half moon, and these are quarter moons. And so if you ever see that in a recipe, that's what it means. It's basically you're quartering your food. And so I kind of like to do it like that because the pieces are small. When I bite into my quiche, I don't want a big giant piece of sausage. I just like it for flavoring. So that's why we cut little tiny pieces like that. Let me keep stirring this. Oh, this smells so good. So I'm going to move this guy. We're going to cut him up in a little bit. But we'll get our sausage going in here. So if you are watching and you are a vegetarian and you stop eating animals, that is fantastic. Like for somebody who works to help people understand why it's not necessary to eat animals, like hooray, and we're so happy, I'm so happy, and I want to give you a pat on the back. If you are still eating eggs, because they're hard to give up, right? They're in a lot of things. Eggs and dairy, eggs and cheese in particular. Two things that vegetarians have a real tough time giving up. But if you're eating eggs and you think it's really not, it's not that big of a deal, it doesn't cause that much harm, a lot of people don't realize that while the egg may not be fertilized and may not be causing harm by eating the egg, what happens to the hens who lay the eggs, they live a very, very horrific life. And I don't like to think about it. I'm vegan and I just kind of like, I'm already there. And I often don't like to talk about it because I don't want to upset people and I don't want you to think that being vegan is all about, oh my God, think about all the horrors. But I did want to say that there are so many ways to not eat eggs, right? There are so many ways. I mean, today there's never been a better time to not eat eggs. But egg-laying hens, some of the injustices, there is no cage, the cage-free, the free-ranging, all marketing hype because they are still packed into very, very, very hot, tiny areas in very big chicken barns. They do not have a quality of life. Their beaks without anesthesia are snipped so that they can't hurt each other with all the stress. They get upset. And at the end of this really very difficult life, in fact, a chicken in nature would probably lay 12 to maybe 15 eggs, just on her own. A chicken-laying hen who is being used for her eggs, she will be forced to lay probably 250 to 300 eggs a year. If you can imagine the difference on her body. To produce an egg, it's very painful. Women, if you've given birth, it's not necessarily a pain-free situation. So it's painful, and it actually pulls all this calcium and other nutrients from their bodies. So the chickens are literally, just getting health problems. Their bones become so brittle, they become sick and injured, and they have such a poor quality of life so that they can lay these eggs. Then, the chickens that we're getting today, I just put some spinach in here, some frozen spinach that I squeezed the water out of. I added it to our mushrooms, our sausage, our shallots, and garlic. And I had some potatoes. I'm adding some potatoes in here. All right? Why not? They're cooked potatoes, just so you know. I would not swap out sweet potatoes. So the hens that we're getting, they're called spent hens because they're no longer productive. They're no longer economical for these factory farmers to keep. So do you ever wonder what happens to them? If you think eating eggs is okay, well these girls, they have a horrible life and then they have a horrible death. They will be either hung upside down and electrocuted, drowned in scalding water. Sometimes they go to a landfill alive and they're suffocated. Sometimes they're gassed. And many of them will end up as pet food or other products they are rendered for. So, if you've thought about giving up eggs, think more about it. Come visit our chickens. Go do some research online. It is really important, and it's so not necessary to eat them or their eggs. So, that's my thing, and I can't wait. And oh, as part of our little campaign to rescue these chickens, we're doing this really fun thing with Queer Eye, not necessarily with them, but we've zhuzhed up their chicken barn that they're going to come home to, and we're just kind of doing some fun things this week with some chicken doppelgangers for the Queer Eye folks. And we have a great fundraising campaign. If you'd like to go to casanctuary.org, they need medical care, they need more stuff in their barn, so if you want to go there, check that out. That's a fun campaign, lots of fun stuff going on to welcome them. So, this is our delicious filling for the quiche. Now we're going to make the custard, right? So normally you would make eggs, right? You'd whip together some eggs and maybe some cheese. We don't need to do that. We're going to use, you could use, if you've heard of the product, Just Egg. That's a wonderful product. I'm not using that. I'm using some tofu. And this is tofu that I have not pressed. I'm trying to get it out of the container here unsuccessfully. I didn't press it because I want some moisture in there. And this is very difficult to get out of the container for some reason. This is, I'm going to crumble into here. So this is not pressed. It's firm tofu. Anybody have any questions or anything, feel free to pipe in. Our handy cameraman over here, my husband, will be happy to relay questions, but I'm just crumbling this in here.
Giselle.
Hi, Giselle.
And I apologize if I missed some names. My wife gives me the stink eye. I can't read and get her on camera. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy. So we have our tofu in here. We're going to add some cashews. If you're nut-free, you don't need to add these. You don't even need to make up the difference in volume. It's just they add a really nice creaminess. They also add some nutrition, which I always like to get as much nutrition into what we're eating as possible. So those are soaked cashews. That makes them more digestible, makes them softer. I'm going to add some nutritional yeast. And if you don't know what nutritional yeast is, I'm assuming you do, but just in case you don't, it's this yellow, flaky powder. It is an inactive yeast. You cannot make things rise with it, like breads and baked goods.
Do you use a deep dish pie crust?
This is a 9-inch deep dish, yes. And it's so easy to make a vegan pie crust. In fact, the recipe is kind of adapted from our cookbook, Compassionate Cuisine, and there's a beautiful quiche recipe in here, and it also has the crust recipe. It's so easy, like you just literally, it comes together so quickly, but we don't have time to do that in our lunch break, so that's why I'm using that one. So I'm going to add this nutritional yeast, right? Because tofu on its own has no flavor, right? And I always say, people say, tofu has no flavor. Well, neither does a chicken breast, right? People add all this stuff to animal flesh to make it palatable. On its own, it's not good. So why eat it, right? Same thing with tofu though. You just, it's a blank slate, and you add flavors and texture, and then you can make it what you want. So I'm going to add cornstarch. This is a tablespoon of cornstarch. That was 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. Cornstarch is what's going to help thicken our mixture here. So cornstarch needs to be heated to activate. So you definitely use cornstarch when you're cooking on the stove, when you're baking, right? It needs heat. I'm going to add a little bit of mustard. This is just Dijon mustard. You could use regular yellow mustard if you like. It just gives it a little background, something special. And then we're going to add turmeric, ground turmeric, and I'm going to add onion powder. I love onion powder. I don't know, I put it in a lot of things. It just gives it like a more full flavor. Turmeric is great anti-inflammatory, great for brain health. So it's about...
I need some turmeric.
It's about a teaspoon of turmeric. And turmeric also will give us the color that we like if we are making, right? So this quiche, you can see, it looks like, you know, it looks very familiar. And that's because I use turmeric to give it a nice sunny color. I'm going to add a little lemon juice. I like a little lemon juice in pretty much everything I make. It just kind of brings flavors to life. So the other thing I wanted to tell you is that you can use regular salt, right? You know, add about a teaspoon of salt. This is black salt, which is funny because it's pink. I don't know why it's black salt, but this you can buy in lots of stores today, like Whole Foods and healthy markets. You can also get it online. It lasts forever. Black salt is what will give you that sulfur kind of smell and taste that we get from eggs. So it's a great thing to have in your pantry. It's not super expensive, like I think maybe $10 for the bag, I don't know. But it does give you that very interesting sulfur taste and smell, which lends to the egg flavor. So I am going to add, let me use this, I'm going to add just about a teaspoon of this. It's a little less, I find it a little less salty than regular salt. So that's our custard. So let me check our crust. Oh, look at our crust. Let me take our crust out. It looks delicious and browned and beautiful. Just slightly brown, right? And you can see it's puffing up a little bit. If you ever do this and it puffs up and you go, oh my God, I ruined it, just press it back down. Just press it back down. It just makes it less, I don't know, it makes it more flaky when I put the rest of the ingredients in. So, let's put that out of the way. Let that sit there for a minute. So now I'm going to blend up our custard. I'm going to put the top on our food processor
Please.
here. Hello, Denise. You need a food processor to make this if you're using the nuts. I do recommend it also, even if you're not using the nuts. However, you could probably whip up your tofu and the other ingredients, not the nuts, until they're creamy. But it is nice to have a food processor for this. So, everybody hang tight. Here we go. Blender hands, talk amongst yourselves. I want to scoop this down just once, but you can see it's got like a nice sunny yellow color. If you like it more yellow, you go right ahead. The other nice thing is that you can taste it and see if it tastes right. You can't do that with raw eggs. Tastes delicious. One more time around the bend. Saute a few things out of the fridge and make a little custard, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scoop this out, just like that. Now if your tofu, for some reason, like that tofu package had a lot of water in it, and I didn't press it. If yours, for example, I don't know, maybe you pressed it, or maybe it doesn't have a lot of water content, and this isn't blending really well, add a little bit of water. That's totally fine. You want it to have this kind of pudding-like consistency because we want it to kind of firm up nicely in the oven. And if it's too wet, it's not going to do that, or it's going to have to really kind of overcook to do that. The crust might burn and all that. So this seems to be like a really nice consistency. So let's give it a good stir.
Add love and stir.
Add love and stir. So, let's see. We'll go like this, and then you can just, it's really, that's how hard it is to make this. I mean, it's so easy. It's also a recipe that's really easy to double, right? So if you wanted to double this and put one in the fridge for later in the week, it does keep well. So that's it. Now, let's put it in our crust. Don't pick that up with your hands, Linda. You will burn yourself. So, when you're making your quiche, don't put your crust just in the tin right in the oven, because when you go to pick it up, you'll get your pot holder in there, you could break it, you could make a big mess. And I don't want you to do that. So it's so nice to know that there are so many amazing ways to use ingredients that are either on the market, like Just Egg and other egg products, or things like tofu. Like another example, we did another recipe in there, as a matter of fact. We did deviled potatoes instead of deviled eggs. Like, who doesn't love a deviled egg, right? But we don't want to eat eggs, so we make them out of little potatoes and made the filling out of like chickpeas and some other ingredients and nutritional yeast. They're fabulous. They're better than deviled eggs, and it's just another example of why we are evolving to recognize that we don't need to have these things. There are ways to get around all of those things, and they're delicious ways and they're creative ways. And so I would urge you, if you are thinking about it, if you are on the path and not quite sure, give it a try. Try a recipe. Try something different. And if for some reason you try it and you say, oh, this isn't for me, don't think that every vegan recipe isn't for you. You know, I don't like everything either. So I try, and, you know, after all these many years, you know, I've been successful in finding way too much food to eat. I did an interview on Kathy Stevens, the founder and director of Catskill Animal Sanctuary. I just did a podcast interview, and we were just talking about how veganism is so much more. It's just not a way that you are deprived. Veganism, it's like there's too much to eat. Like, there's too many things for me to eat, too many things I want to cook, too many things I want to try. Because once you start exploring, you find that there's so many wonderful things out there, so many ways to do things, and you get excited. And knowing in your heart that you're not harming animals is also, it just, I don't know, it fuels your passion for food, I believe.
Someone joined late. Can you give them a quick rundown of what's
Sure.
Consistency? Spinach?
Yes, so this is a vegan quiche. Here is the finished product. Right, gorgeous, delicious.
That's the cameraman's dinner.
And how we made that, we sauteed some shallots, use onions. We used some vegan sausage and mushroom. Just use mushroom if you like. We put some frozen spinach that we squeezed the water out. And we put in some salt. What else did we put in? Some garlic and some potatoes. Basically use the little bits and bobs you have in your refrigerator to create your filling. Saute that all up. Then we made a custard. We made it with tofu. We made it with some nutritional yeast. Made it with some cashews. Leave the cashews out if you would like to. We used some black salt, which you don't need to use, but this has a nice sulfur scent and smell like eggs. Use regular salt. We used a little cornstarch, a little lemon juice, turmeric, and onion powder. And that's it. And we pre-baked our crust just for a few minutes. So look at this, right? You go, what am I going to do with this? It doesn't fit, right? I could put it on there if I wanted to. But what I like to do is, and I did this earlier, is I take a little ramekin, like so, and I will spray a little bit of avocado or whatever. I don't usually use a spray, but sometimes it is nice. I'm going to spray a little bit in here, and then I put this right in here. So if you are gluten-free, for example, and you want to do a gluten-free crust, and not buy a gluten-free crust, just make a frittata. You can avoid the crust completely for whatever reasons, and just take it and put it in like a 9x9 baking dish. Put it in individual ramekins, and you can serve people their own little quiche. You could put an English muffin or a bagel, and then cook your quiche. Cut around the edge and flip it over onto your bagel or your English muffin, and you have and you can make a vegan hollandaise sauce. There's recipes out there for them online. It's fabulous. It's a great brunch idea.
Fabulous.
So that's what I'm doing with my extra, and I'm going to put this right on the pan with this. And so this is going to go into the oven at 350 degrees. You can cook it for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I don't know. I took mine out a little early, I think, before. Because I wanted to make sure that it still had some moisture in it, but you could cook it till it's super firm, but 30-40 minutes. So let's see what this looks like. This is a fantastic dinner. This isn't just for brunch. This isn't just for breakfast. This is, you make this, we're gonna make, look at this. I made
How long have we been vegan? I've been vegan 10 years. My wife?
I don't know, a long time. I've been at Cast for 10 years, and I was vegan before that, but then I was vegetarian for a long time. I went back and forth once in early years. This is lettuce. Look at this gorgeous lettuce. I'm adding some fresh romaine to it because I don't have enough. Lettuce from the garden, right? Grow a garden, people. I'm just growing it. Look on my deck outside. Look at those boxes of leaves. So grow a garden. So I'm going to make a little salad to go with this, but I want to show you.
Right outside our vegan kitchen.
And you know what? Can I just say something? Being vegan isn't about like putting a label on somebody. I really feel like, you know what? If it's in your heart to not harm animals, and you're working your way through it, and you're not, perfect. None of us are perfect. Nobody's perfect in general. Don't get stuck on that label. I've had people in my classes who have been just crestfallen when, they had a piece of birthday cake with eggs and whatever in it because they didn't want to hurt, their cousin's feelings or something. Don't beat yourself up. If you're choosing to make compassionate choices for your diet, for your lifestyle, that's a great thing. Like, that is a great thing. And that's something that should spread from your joy in your heart and the goodness of what you're doing. Please don't beat yourself up. Do the best you can and just keep going and keep learning and keep trying and keep sharing, right? When we make food, like, one of the best things you can do to kind of evangelize veganism is to share the wonderful, delicious food that you make, because people start to realize, like, I don't need this. I don't need to eat animals or their products, right? And you can be part of that. So be kind to yourselves as well as the animals. So look at this quiche, people. I'm cutting this open. Oh my God. It's so just so you know, like, it is firm. It's not like, I don't know what you might expect to happen in a vegan quiche, but it feels right. It just feels right, So, let me try and get that up without breaking it. I'm getting all my, look at that. Do you see that? Look at that. Look at that. That is thick. It is, look at all the flavor and all the ingredients and the texture and the crust, and it comes together so perfectly. Like, that is...
Tom, you got to share. Because it's raining here, Tom.
Have a bite, Tom. Yeah, Tom, it's not raining today. So that with a beautiful salad or even a nice soup, I don't know, we were on the East Coast here for Memorial Day. It rained and it was 45 degrees all weekend. So I made soup. So quiche and a soup any time of year. Look at that. You see how beautiful that is? It's even more beautiful because like, there was no cruelty involved. There's nothing involved in harming animals to make this, and that's why vegan food tastes better, way better, than non-vegan food. So let me just show you how good this is. That's a big bite for me. Let me see if I can get it. Let's go.
Here comes the happy dance.
Oh my God. Oh my God. People, that is so easy. It's all these ingredients you can find in your grocery store. Oh my God, I can't wait for dinner. If you can use the crust, if you can get a crust and you don't have gluten issues, use a crust. It's so flaky, it just adds this beautiful texture to it. And if you don't, it's perfectly fine because you have all these other textures. Look at the color. Look at that. There's sausage, there's potatoes, there's spinach. Tofu is a fantastic source of plant-based protein. You can't get any.
I can't get any, that's right.
You can't get any better than this.
Cameraman's starving.
So, in honor of the 14 hens who are coming home to love and joy and healing, we give you vegan quiche. I ask you to follow us on @LoveStir on Instagram. Lots of recipes and fun things going on there. Check out this fun campaign, just fun videos on TikTok and all this week about, Queer Eye and how we're just kind of preparing these beautiful hens for a new home. And find us at casanctuary.org. I'm teaching classes every month. I'm teaching a Moroccan class next week. Tickets still available. I'm teaching a homemade pasta class the following month in July. Don't need a pasta maker. It's so fun. We're going to play with our food. So there's always something good going on, always something vegan going on. I thank you for watching. I thank you for thinking about what you eat. And my husband might thank me for saving him a piece of this quiche, maybe. So, Chef Linda, Catskill Animal Sanctuary, eat plants, not animals, okay? Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Jane Unchained. Signing.